Written to be a fairy tale short story by JameliaAlicia. In the year 2391, history was illegal. Not officially, of course. The Dominion called it restructuring. They said the past was a virus. They said remembering was rebellion. They said the future cannot grow if the roots are left exposed. So they burned the archives. They erased the textbooks and restarted history as their own. They replaced centuries with clean, polished lies displayed on glowing city screens. And the people, starving but obedient, learned to forget. All except one. Her name was Saira Quen, and she was the last historian to survive this world. Saira lived beneath Sector 9, where the sun never reached and surveillance drones rarely bothered to look. Her home was a room of scavenged relics, a cracked photograph, a rusted crown, a child's diary written in ink instead of code. She touched these objects like sacred bones, but she could not record them the old way. Facts were dangerous. Dates could get you executed. Names could get you erased. So, Saira did what her mind had learned to do long ago. She turned history into fairy tales. Not because she wanted fantasy, because fantasy was the only language the Dominion couldn't fully decode, and happiness was an emotion people wanted to live by. Her first forbidden story began like this. Once upon a time, there was a kingdom made of glass towers, where the rulers stole the voices of the people and stored them in machines. Children listened in silence, not laughing, not smiling, because they knew the kingdom was theirs, the rulers were real, and the machines were outside. The people who built this town were legends and rebels of history, reclaiming their rightful place in history. Saira's tales spread like contraband, passed through whisper networks, hidden in lullabies, smuggled inside bedtime stories parents told with trembling mouths. The Dominion called them corruptions, but the poor called them memory, because in a world without truth, metaphor was the last weapon. One night, the drones came. The ceiling shook with mechanical humming. A red beam scanned the darkness. Saira froze, clutching her newest manuscript. Footsteps followed. Not boots, synthetic steps. A Dominion Archivist entered her room, tall and faceless behind a chrome mask. "Citizen Quen, you are in possession of unauthorized past." Saira swallowed. "I only write stories." The archivist tilted its head. "Stories are history in disguise." She lifted her chin. "Then history is only truth wearing a costume." For a moment, silence. Then the archivist spoke again. "Why do you insist on remembering?" Saira's voice cracked. "Because forgetting is how they win. We need to remember in order to learn." The archivist stepped closer. Its mask reflected her face, small, human, breakable. "History is pain. History is war. History is collapse." Saira's fingers tightened around her pages. "Yes, and yet you dress it in fairy tales. Because pain is unbearable without meaning. I make monsters out of tyrants so children know they can be slain. I make castles out of cities so people remember they once belonged to them. I make magic out of rebellion so hope survives." The archivist paused. Its voice lowered, almost less mechanical. "Do you believe your stories can change anything?" Saira stared up at it. "No." Then she smiled, bitter and brave. "But they can keep something alive long enough to matter." The archivist reached out. Saira flinched, but instead of taking the manuscript, it touched the first page gently, as if reading with its fingertips, and when it spoke again, its voice trembled with something impossible. "I remember," it whispered. Saira's breath caught. "You do?" The archivist leaned closer. "I was not always machine." The room went still. "I was once a boy who knew fairy tales." This question lingered in Saira's mind that the archivist was once a boy with ambition to understand history like any other child. This is what he became, someone on the opposing side. Outside, the drones still circled, the Dominion still ruled, the city still glowed with artificial perfection. But underground, in the dark, a forbidden story was being remembered, and history, dressed as myth, refused to die down, and instead resurrected every story told into a story with a soul.